225, which is a stoppage of funds. And you will see under Section 94 of that Act, it provides for indicators of serious or persistent material breach. Because Chairman 225, let me open that. Yes, Article 225, Sub-Article 3 provides for instances where a cabinet secretary responsible for finance may stop transfer of funds to a public entity. And at 2253A, it says only for a serious material breach or persistent material breaches of the measures established under that regulation. So if you come to how you determine the serious or persistent material breaches, Article Section 94, 1 from A to B, C, and D, you will see there at D, the following factors, singly or in combination, may further indicate that a state organ or public entity is in serious material breach or persistent material breach of the measures established under this Act. Number 1, the controller of budget has raised material issues in the quarterly report. The Auditor General has withheld an opinion or issued a disclaimer due to inadequacies in financial statement or the state organ or public entity, or has issued an opinion which identifies a serious financial problem in the state organ or public entity. So, Mr. Chairman, first of all, which could be adverse. Yes, this is 3 financial years of adverse opinions, in my view, is an indicator of serious or persistent material breaches. Then, Mr. Chairman, if you go to, I think it is Section 96,
and as Senator Sifuna proceeds, also check for us what the opinion was in the prior year, which was 2019-2020, so that we contextualize for how long have we had these adverse opinions.
Yes. So, Chairman, there's a procedure under 96 for stoppage of funds process in county government. It says 96(1), where the cabinet secretary finds a state organ, which is a county government entity, to be in serious or persistent material breach of its obligations or financial commitments, the cabinet secretary shall, in accordance with Article 225 of the Constitution, immediately stop the transfer of funds. So, I believe in this particular case, there are serious or persistent material breaches of the responsibilities of the county government of Nairobi. This is the act upon which, in addition to the sections of the Public Audit Act that you have very ably brought up, should constitute enough grounds for us to take this action as a Senate. We resolve that the cabinet secretary should stop further funds to the county government of Nairobi. Because if we cannot have these conversations here, and you are facing adverse opinions, including up to the latest audit report, then there's nothing we're doing as a Senate. We are doing a great disservice to the people of Nairobi.
Okay, could you confirm what was the opinion in 2019-2020? Because the one for 2022-2023 has been released and it's adverse. So that would be 3 years of adverse. As I check that, Jackson?
Yes, sir. The section I'm referring to is Section 27 of the Parliamentary Powers and Privileges Act, which proscribes the offences relating to witnesses. Under 27.1, it provides that a person commits an offence where the person, A, having been duly summoned in terms of Section 18, fails without sufficient cause to 1, attend at the time and place specified in the summons, or 2, remain in attendance until excused from the further attendance by the person presiding at the inquiry. B, when called upon under Section 20, refuses to be sworn in or to make an affirmation as a witness, or C, fails or disobeys without sufficient cause to 1, answer fully and satisfactorily all questions lawfully put to the person under Section 20, or 2, produce any document, paper, book, or record in the person's possession custody or control which the person has been required to produce under Section 20. Subsection 2 provides that a person who commits an offence under subsection 1 is liable on conviction to a fine not exceeding 200,000 shillings or to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 6 months or to both. And then subsection 3 gives other offences which are related to the conduct of the person, such as assaulting a member of the committee, threatening a member of the committee, inducing a person to give false evidence, and so on. So, Chair, from this provision, you find that there is already a provision in law, but the problem is the enforcement. Because, for example, the provision on the jailing for 1 year is we have a gap when it comes to the enforcement of that. Thank you.
Upon conviction, so can a resolution of the House move the investigative agencies to investigate and prepare a file for prosecution?
Yes, Chair, that would be the appropriate.
I doubt whether the conviction is of any other entity other than the House.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the conviction is by the House.
By the House, yes.
So in this particular,
House and it's voted.
correct, it's voted for and the guy should go to jail immediately. Let the conviction be made first. As to how it is enforced, we have methods, Chair. We have methods. Here in Nairobi, we have methods.
No, we shall not revert to Nairobi methods. They are bloody, as we know it. What was the opinion?
So for 2020, it was adverse as well. Then 2019, yes, 2019, 2020, it was adverse. 2018, 2019, it was qualified.
So, if a county gets 4 adverse opinions in a row, is it that a persistent material breach of the PFM?
Yes.
It's a serious and persistent material breach. And that should then allow us to move.
If I ask the Audit Act also, if consecutive of 4 advance, what is the reaction on the Audit Act also?
Auditor?
Is there some actions in there?
I think from the Auditor General, there is no recourse. Once we have audited, then now it moves to the oversight committees. Thank you.
Because from the auditors, now we move to Article 225. Because they've done their report persistently, it's in adverse. The power to deal with those kind of scenarios are in Article 225 of the Constitution. So, members, we probably might need to agree on a way forward. And one, we have said that the EACC, CEO and Chair, should appear before this committee to explain the reasons why we no longer have an officer from that entity, and yet they are the implementing agency that facilitates our work. There are a lot of cases where we have given directions that investigations should be conducted and files should be sent to DPP if illegalities are detected. We need to get a report. So when the EACC is appearing before us, they must summarize all the action points that we had allocated to them and give us a status report. There are areas where we had called for special audit, for example, in Vihiga County Assembly, and several other cases. So the EACC should be called for that conversation. It's not just limited to their representation here, but it should be a detailed conversation, including the status of actions that have been assigned to them. Secondly, we have agreed on the need for a motion to deal with the gaps that we are contending with, that sometimes makes the Senate or Parliament appear weak. Parliament cannot be weak, and Parliament cannot appear helpless, and Parliament cannot be a house of lamentation. Otherwise, it will have no effect, it will have no influence in the eyes and the lives of the people. I'm going to ask the Secretariat to do a little paper for our consideration on that subject of contempt of parliament, I think there's some jurisprudence around it. Practices next door in Uganda, they even have a police station within parliament. They are able to enforce, they are able to direct the Inspector General of Police to undertake certain actions. And I think there is this thing of constitutional purity, where we are saying the IG cannot be directed. And every other day they're being directed to chase Sifuna and other people of offenses of wearing sufurias on their heads. Correct. We have seen that. So let us not lie to ourselves that we are such a constitutionally pure country that Parliament cannot ask the IG to take action on an errant governor. I believe that if there's a gap in our laws, we are the law-making institution, and if there is anything that Parliament must do is to strengthen its role so that its directives are taken seriously. Now, thirdly, we have said that in view of the persistent material breaches of the PFM that has been seen in Nairobi, where there's been 4 adverse opinions over a period of 4 years, that we shall look at the provisions of Article 225 and provisions of the PFM on stoppage of funds. This committee will strongly consider and perhaps propose the invocation of Article 225 over the persistent material breaches that have been seen in Nairobi City County. But before we get to that conclusion, Article 47 or 48 thereabouts on fair administrative action will require that the governor of Nairobi must be compelled to appear before this house. I think that's Article 47 of fair administrative action. We therefore must compel the governor of Nairobi to appear before this committee, so that certain conclusions we can only make once we have given him a fair hearing. So, members, I want to propose that summons be issued to compel the governor of Nairobi to appear before this committee within 14 days, of course subject to the calendar. But the reason for 14 days is we expect that the governor of Nairobi is going to collaborate with the Office of the Auditor General in terms of preparation of their management responses. So we are issuing summons to compel Governor Sakaja to appear before this committee and to respond to the Auditor General's report on the theft of 76 billion. Because an adverse opinion simply means that. It means that the Auditor General cannot confirm that that money was put to good use. So when he appears, he must appear with his detailed responses. We don't want stories here. We don't want him to come with just with a boarding pass and then he goes away. He definitely must come with a boarding pass to confirm that he had traveled. He definitely must justify why that travel was more important than defending 76 billion. But he definitely also must go into the details of that report. So, Clerk, let's look for a date within the 14 days, the minimum 14 days, to allow for preparation of written responses. If the governor fails to appear, or if the governor appears and fails to convince the committee as to why he did not honor the invitation today, then we've got the fines that are specified in the Parliamentary Powers and Privileges Act. But we must also reprimand, despite issuing summons, strongly reprimand the governor of Nairobi for skipping this session of the Public Accounts Committee. It looks like contempt of Parliament, and it looks like impunity if we put together what Senator Sifuna has mentioned about his conduct in other committees. And the message we must give to Governor Sakaja and others is that nobody in this republic is bigger than the Senate. It is a Senate that acts as a trial chamber for the impeachment of the president, of the deputy president, and for governors. The Senate has risen to the occasion in the past and has sent a governor of Nairobi home. And we hope that we will not be called upon to make a similar decision in this session of Parliament. But to Governor Sakaja and others of his ilk, you are not bigger than the Senate. What we expect of governors is for them to rise to the high calling of their offices. And part of that high calling is not just to move around and be smart and be on billboards. It's about being available to Parliament, being available to the people who elected you, being accountable and being transparent. It is a job of this committee to enforce accountability, to enforce transparency, and we shall also enforce availability. Parliamentary business must take precedence over any other business for public or state officers whose responsibility is oversighted by the Senate. And that applies to cabinet secretaries, it applies to governors, it applies to any other person. So with that, we probably come to the conclusion that Governor Sakaja has been summoned and he must appear before this committee. He must first explain his absence today and thereafter explain how 76 billion was utilized. At the end of that conversation, we shall take a view on whether to move the cabinet secretary to stop funds as per Article 225 of the Constitution. But in the interim, we want the EACC to start processing the issues raised by the Auditor General that relate to violation of the Public Audit Act and relate to violation of the PFM Act. There are very clear violations in this report, some of which do not even need a resolution of Parliament, because it's not the job of Parliament to launder or to whitewash ills. If it's wrong, it's wrong. If documents were not provided during audit, and yet that is a requirement of the Public Audit Act, it does not matter what Parliament says. So I think that brings us to our conclusion. And I hope that Governor Sakaja will present himself in the 14 days as per the summons that will be issued. Senator Odinga.
Chair, before you make your ruling conclusive, I just wanted to add that one of the issues that I read somewhere, and I could forward that to you, is that Nairobi County Government, I'm sure Honorable Sifuna is aware, has actually been having issues with the payroll where more than 20 billion shillings has been paid irregularly to some people who are getting salaries paid into same accounts with same numbers and all that stuff. So this is really, really rotten to the core.
Senator
Maybe Chair, without being preemptive, so that we don't find ourselves in the same situation that we are in today, because I know tomorrow part of our meeting is meeting with the Cabinet Secretary for Public Service and Performance, and then the Council of Governors. I would want them to know from the Secretariat whether there is any communication on whether Governor Sakaja will be back by tomorrow, because I know that he's the one that chairs the Labour Committee in the Council of Governors. So we expect that he shall still come here tomorrow. So I don't know whether there is an indication on when he's supposed to come back. Maybe he's coming back tonight so that he can be able to join us tomorrow, or he has written that he will not come back, or there's a communication from the council, because the council has many people that can come on their behalf.
Yes, Chair. The information we have through the letter that was written by the County Secretary indicates that Governor Sakaja is away today. However, the chairman of the Labour Committee of the COG has changed. It's no longer Governor Sakaja. It's Governor Mutai Kaiga, the governor for Nyeri.
Okay, so that brings us to our meeting for tomorrow, because tomorrow we are supposed to meet the Cabinet Secretary, the Council of Governors, over human resource issues in counties. And it was mainly to do with IPD and maybe the plans they have to upgrade to another platform. And Clark, you're indicating that the CS has sent information that they are unavailable tomorrow?
Yes, I've gotten word this morning informally though that the CS will not be available tomorrow, and then the process of writing to us to indicate the same.
Now, this was the thing that was being conversed in the House 2 weeks ago. Senator Sifuna, you recall, there's a week when all cabinet secretaries, or some cabinet secretaries, decided to send letters in the morning and skipped sessions of the question session in the Senate. And I remember there was about 3 hours of debate on the matter. And the conclusion of the speaker was, let's process a motion. I'm not sure whether someone is processing a motion. But even a cabinet secretary should never have the comfort of deciding when and how he's coming to parliament. When there is an invitation of parliament and there is good, adequate advance notice, we cannot entertain this thing of a cabinet secretary waking up and cancelling a meeting that has been scheduled for the last 2 weeks. That again is belittling the House, and it speaks to what we have discussed at length. That there is some contempt that is coming out as a result of a perceived weakness, and we must make an example of some people so that it can be painful, and people can see that Parliament is a serious institution. We are not going to hold a meeting on such important issues without the Cabinet Secretary. This Senate and this committee will not accept, in place of a Cabinet Secretary, the Principal Secretary. The Principal Secretary can only accompany a Cabinet Secretary. In fact, this Senate refused to listen to Chief Administrative Secretaries, even though I know some committee chairs were lenient on them. But my position as a chair of this committee is that even if you were to have CASs in future, a CAS cannot come here on behalf of the executive. And I want to encourage other chairs of committees present that we take that position in unison. That therefore means that if indeed we get a letter to that effect, then we might have to find other ways of compelling the Cabinet Secretary to appear before the House. But since you don't have a formal letter, I think we maintain that we have our meeting tomorrow. If a formal letter comes, then we must compel the appearance before this committee, because we are discussing such important issues. In fact, we might even expand the agenda to go beyond IDPD and start talking about remuneration of health workers in countries, because that's also a big issue currently.
Chair, I think maybe you would think of combining also the issue of the own source revenue, because it has also been an issue. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. No, also, revenue wanted to have a different. We wanted to have the treasury team, KRA, and so it's on this one of personnel. I think we had called the cabinet secretary for not treasury. It was cabinet secretary for personnel management. For personnel management, and that is Moses Kuria. So Moses Kuria must know that parliamentary business takes precedence over any other business, and if the president has not made that clear to them, then I wonder why he moved the House to have cabinet secretaries come to the Senate, unless it was just like appear.
Yeah, Chair, first of all, two things that as a member of the Senate House Business Committee, we have faced this problem that indeed, as you said yourself, it was a request from the executive that cabinet secretaries be allowed to appear before the House, and our standing orders were amended accordingly to allow that. But as they say in Swahili, mtoto akililia wembe mpe. It has come back to haunt them, because I saw a letter at the SBC, communication from the chief cabinet secretary indicating that we need certain quantities of questions before a cabinet secretary appears, and yet it could be one single question from a member that has national importance. What it has done is that because of the failure to appear by some of these cabinet secretaries, you find a member has asked a question in June of last year. It was a current affair. Like if you were to ask a question regarding the ongoing strike by doctors, and then the cabinet secretaries appears in December of 2024, the question has lost its currency. Another problem is that there is very serious backlog. You found like the last time that the cabinet secretary for transport appeared before the House, there was almost 15 questions for him to answer. It's because when these matters are in the public discourse, they are live. We don't get opportunity for us to have that conversation with the cabinet secretaries. So for me, really, there is a broader conversation on how seriously people are taking parliament and parliamentary business, and the retinue of excuses. If you see the range of excuses that are given, why somebody has not appeared. Look at the letter, for instance, that is before you. All they do is to tell you casually that I have traveled. They don't indicate how long they are going to travel. When they say reschedule to another date, you don't know their travel itinerary. It would be polite for somebody to say, I'll be back in the country on such and such a date. But they don't even bother so that they can guide the committee on when to schedule these meetings. So when Senator Methu is asking, is he available tomorrow? Nobody knows. The letter doesn't say I'll be away from the country from this date to this date. All they do is to just casually tell you that they have traveled without even the courtesy of telling you even the destination. The committee might actually be also traveling to that same country. It is possible we can decide, oh, you are in Dubai, okay, we are also coming there tomorrow. Can we have this conversation there? They don't tell you, So the level of contempt, Chair, is what is pushing us to this level where we feel now something needs to be done. And I agree with that direction that we cannot take any other person in place of the minister responsible or the governor responsible.
Yeah, if someone said, I'm a Muslim, I'm going to Mecca for pilgrimage, it makes sense. Senator Methu, are you aware whether Governor Sakaja is going to Mecca?
Maybe not, and his prayers will not be answered.
Okay, I think then we'll need to bring this meeting to a close. It's quite a sad turn of events to have members travel from the counties at a time when we're on recess to be here on a Monday to do business, and then nothing happens. But we are dedicated and committed to doing that which our people elected us to do, and we shall do it. We shall do it. For Nairobi, just as I conclude, let us also think of doing visits to some of the projects that have been flagged by the Auditor General. Correct. We can't be calling the governor from across the road, and then we look at paperwork, and we'll come here trying to be cleverer than everybody, and not visit the projects. So maybe after the appearance, after those 14 days, we must also schedule a day or two where the Senate goes out to verify, accompanied by the Auditor General and the governor also being present to look at those projects. Because if they come and tell us that some projects that have been listed here have been completed, we must go there and confirm that those projects work. That's when the work of the Senate will be felt.
Chair, I thank you for that direction, because and one of the things that I wanted us to change in the manner in which we conduct those visits is that there is usually what the Senate calls a courtesy call to the office of the governor. Chairman, I want to dissuade you, please, when the committee goes to the ground, we should not extend those courtesies to the governor, because my experience with the health committee last time is that the governor ensured that the meeting with him took the longest time possible, so that the committee had no time to visit the projects. We were scheduled to visit all the county health facilities. We ended up only doing 2. And Chair, as he's holding you up there, he has sent his team on the ground. They are cleaning the city mortuary so that you don't see what the problem is there. But when you arrive, you will still be confronted with the problems, So in my view, because if you look at the 2023 Auditor General's report, there is a schedule of almost 100 stalled projects in Nairobi. If it is not roads, it is hospitals, it's all sorts of construction that are stalled, it's sports facilities, and so on and so forth. So, Chair, I would very much welcome that visit of the Public Accounts Committee to Nairobi. But scrap off this thing of first going to the governor's office. In fact, for him, he should just be seeing us here in the committee room. We should never, as a house, be treated to the spectre I saw in the health committee, that you go and sit in his office there for 5 hours discussing things that you should be seeing with your own eyes. So when that visit is arranged, please, Chair, we should just start at 6 a.m. the projects, and we make sure by evening we have done at least half of those projects, and we have a proper conversation about the state of Nairobi.
Thank you. Finally, I think Senator Mario.
Chair, I agree with Senator Sifuna, because it's not even a health committee only, because other committees, if they go on the ground for checking, they normally go to the governor office, but it takes long, because I don't know what is the arrangement with the governors. They hold a longest meeting so that you cannot go on the ground or prepare themselves on the scenario that if we go to this site, you will not see what 1, 2, 3. So maybe we can limit ourselves, because you cannot go to your house without informing you. You have to knock the door to the governor, but you have to limit yourself at what time, and you just leave, not taking long, so that you have to minimize yourself timely. Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Chairman, I didn't want to comment on this particular matter, but I am dissuaded to going to the county. I mean, we are going there for oversight, and whether the governor is present or not, we are with the office of the Auditor General. We just want to go and confirm that what the Auditor General has found is the situation on the ground, because in most cases we find ourselves, Honorable Chair, the Auditor General says that a project is incomplete. In the response of the county government, they say that a project is complete. So the reason why we are going there as a committee is to affirm which position of the two is the correct position. So there's no point of really doing courtesy to the governor. We are going to Mihango dispensary. Just tell the governor that we will be at Mihango dispensary at 10 in the morning. If he is available, he will be able to join us. If he is not available, we are there with the Auditor General, and we shall make our findings. So that we are able to be prudent on time. And Honorable Chair, I think that must extend not only to Nairobi County, it must extend to most of our counties, that we can make time. I feel that we do justice to this process of oversight when we visit the real projects on the ground. I felt, in my opinion, like we did so well when we were in Turkana, to go and see those very, very high consuming projects. We saw them, we saw what the progress is. Well, there was some bit of trying to clean up Honorable Sifuna, but a crack on the wall, nothing can be done to it. So you just find that crack, and we are able to now make very, very, very informed reports, Honorable Chair. So we could be clustering counties together. Say on a weekend, go to Nyeri and Nyandarua. They are next door neighbors, so that even our people can be able to feel that we are instead of just relying on the responses that we sometimes, Honorable Chair, and I've had that problem myself. The governor comes with a very big bundle, which Senator Sifuna says that is a way of trying to hoodwink the committee, and they also do very funny photos. So you are not able to even tell whether this house is a kiosk, it's a toilet, and they say that it's complete. And I always say, and I asked, you remember I asked Governor Odinga when he appeared before us here, I am looking at your page. The photos that have been put on your page for the event that you attended on the weekend are so clear. But the photos that you brought in the Senate are so of very low quality. How comes you were able to get a good camera for your event and a bad camera for the responses? We are not able to tell completely that what we are seeing on the photo and what we get in the response is the situation on the ground. Let's go to Nyandarua. When the governor says that they have done county headquarters up to 70%, go to Nyandarua and see whether it is 70%. And that we shall have been a bit prudent.
Chair, just one final comment. Perhaps maybe it should not be a blanket withdrawal of goodwill for all governors, because there are governors who actually have the courtesy. There are governors who appear here and they cooperate with the committee for us to be able to do our job. But somebody who never extends courtesy to the Senate, somebody who shows contempt at every opportunity, that is not somebody who should be getting courtesy calls from senators. You don't even need to tell him that you're coming, because, like for me, as a senator of Nairobi or as a senator of Umeiba or you can't say that this is Sakaja's house that we have to knock on his door. No. This is a public entity. I mean, we just proceed and go. So if somebody is in the habit of being discourteous, there is no need for him to get any courtesies from the Senate.
And maybe, please, Chairman, and I'm not opening the discussion because we have had it. It's only that Senator Sifuna has joked my mind, so that it is not seen that we have a problem with governors appearing. It is fair to say that over 95% of the governors appear before this committee very faithfully. We only have a few problems with a few governors, especially those that have received very, very huge budgets. We have a small problem with, not a small problem, a very big problem with Nairobi, a problem with Isiolo, a problem with, I think, Kiambu, a few governors. But most of the governors are realizing that this is a very, very important process, a very, very important parliamentary business, and they take it as serious. So we just want to ask that their colleagues just take cue and follow, so that we don't just condemn every governor and say that they don't appear before the Senate. They appear. We have not had a problem with most of the governors. They appear as scheduled. Only a few.
Thank you, Senator Matthew. The practice in this committee is whenever we do the county visits, we do not go to the governor's office. We call the governor to the county assembly or to a venue of our choice. I remember when I led a delegation to Samburu, we secured a venue. I think it was a public, Catholic-run institution. So the governor met us there before we went to do the site visits. Yeah. So that has always been the practice, that because it's a person you are coming to oversight. So if you're going to spend 2 hours in his office taking tea and mandazi, what message are you communicating to the members of public? So for this committee, we do not do those courtesies of county commissioner or county governor. We go and have a meeting of the committee in the county, and we invite the governor to that meeting. And I think that also should be the way other committees or conduct themselves. Senator Onyonka.
Chair, I'm glad to hear Senator Methu and all of us discussing the relevance of the visits we've made. To be sincere with you, Chair, some of our sittings, I think we can do them in some of the counties, because the exercise we're conducting, I would like to call it more like a quasi-financial legal outfit. But there is a political angle to it. When the public sees us responding and discussing these critical issues at their county headquarters, it has a different significance than when we are in Nairobi. I think it will help our committee, and indeed all the committees, that we get out of Nairobi and just go out and check out on what these people are doing. Thank you.
And maybe it should be customary that counties that are neighboring, Kiambu, Machakos, Kajiado, counties that are neighboring Nairobi, there is no great expense in driving to the county assembly, holding our meetings there, and then doing site visits. So I guess that was the spirit even when we started this session. We just need to give effect to it. So George, when we are looking at the schedule, let's also build in some time that we can utilize for those county visits.
What if we take the direction option? My opinion is we visit counties which have advanced reports so that we can be on their ground.
Yes. Yeah, we can prioritize that.
Yes.
I think Matthew is the one who talked of cluster, so clustering. It makes it easy for the OAG because the OAG also operates in certain clusters. So we pick a cluster at the north, a cluster in western, a cluster at the coast. That will make our work more impactful. Senator Gaya.
Chair, for the last 1 year that I've sat in this committee, I have gathered some intelligence, maybe from these far-flung counties, especially the eastern counties, the Turkana, all those counties. They have serious issues with the management of resources. I don't know for what reasons, but I think they take advantage of the fact that they are far. And I think as a committee, we are supposed not to make sure that we are supposed to exercise what we did in Turkana. That Turkana issue really brought us into limelight. And I think we are supposed not to set those examples to counties like Mandela, Wajir, and those far-flung counties where just assume that Nairobi is too far away. It will take us another 2 years before we are summoned. Maybe we will be invited to the Senate Commission on Public Accounts and so forth. I think once Nairobi is supposed to make those impromptu visits to those counties, because Chair, I have witnessed, I have gathered a lot of intelligence. There is a lot of misuse of public resources in those counties. I don't know for what reasons. I think there is that assumption that they are far away from us, and I think they can make use of money the way they want to use without any due regard for adhering to those financial regulations.
Yeah, and I also want to assure the media, because I've seen there's been some pushback following your reports on some proceedings of this committee with regards to Marsabit. And having looked at what was covered in the media, in my view, it was accurate. It captured what was said here. And the beautiful thing is that these proceedings are streamed live. If someone is to challenge you on the issue of loss of KDSP funding, it was the governor himself who confirmed that the adverse opinion cost them the conditional grant. If anyone was to question you on whether 8 billion was stolen or well spent, it's in the Auditor General's report saying that he could not confirm in all material respects that the money was utilized properly. So our friends in the media, we thank you for what you're doing, and we will not allow you to go down on your own, especially when you're reporting what is factual and what is true. And I think if there is that pushback, we will have no problem as a committee going to Marsabit to verify how those resources were utilized. So be of good courage, and please continue. We'll need to do the same thing for Nairobi County.
Chair, the interesting thing about the media, you see, the reporters who come to these committees to cover proceedings in Parliament, to cover proceedings, they are not the problem. These guys will get all the material, everything that was said. But I'm telling you, these governors have gatekeepers at the editorial teams. Yes. There are editorial teams there that are in the pockets of governors. It doesn't matter what material these reporters come with from Parliament. I can assure you, and I don't want to name the media houses because I've seen it practically. There are governors whose material cannot be, if it is negative on Governor Sakaja, I know the media houses that can air and the ones that cannot air them. I can't just name them here because, you know, I also have friends in the media. But they should know that we are aware that they are frustrating the work of these hard-working reporters who come to the field, who come to the committees, who come to Parliament. But when you take the story there, the editor will just tell you this one cannot air. The media houses will not receive any advertisements from them. When they are putting up these beautiful photos of them waving county fees, you see that the photo of the governor is bigger than the advertisement itself. And there's two notorious chair. You have seen the advertisement every newspaper, every day in the newspaper. You are confronted with the first page you open. I don't want to go into details.
Yeah, I think it's an issue of serious frustration. I think as we conclude, the other thing we must do for Nairobi is that the legal fees, I've just been looking at the contingent liability on legal fees is 21 billion. 21 billion Kenya shillings as contingent liability. That is more than what the Senate gives to Nairobi City County. So we had agreed earlier that we'll have a separate hearing on issues to do with legal fees. So for Nairobi, we are saying we are doing, when the governor is compelled to appear, we'll have the proper responses. We will have project visitation, but we'll also have a session on legal fees. We had asked